How would you describe that debut?
Pretty impressive. It's just from the very beginning, the first at bat, the quality of the at bat, the takes, not panicking, just under control. He got ahead and still is able to take pitches close to the strike zone, and just the way he was taking them. There was rhythm, he's on time, like pretty good idea. Obviously, something that we've seen in the past. The way he controls the strike zone, but man, he was pretty much perfect at the plate today, and it was just good to see that.
With A.J., a lot of the talk is about his athleticism and his speed, but that strike zone discipline, was that even more than you maybe anticipated, especially for a major league debut where guys are going to innately be nervous?
Yeah, I don't think you see that right out of the gate. You see that from players coming up through the system, and they have a pretty good understanding of the strike zone, but not till you get here, the quality of the pitching, obviously, and you're going to be jumpy at times. Today, he was just under control from the very beginning, and like I said, it's pretty impressive. Didn't give up any at-bats away. That's the other thing. And this is the 3-1 takes with runners in scoring position, not trying to do too much. He's just under control, and you don't see that from players when they first get to the league.
Tony?
What do you know on Alvarez?
He's going to get an MRI tomorrow and see what we got. Yeah, we just got to wait. He didn't look good on that swing, obviously. We saw it right away. And, he came out, but we got to wait.
Dan?
How much of an impact do you think Ewing's presence and the at-bats that you just talked about had on the rest of the team? Is it kind of a carryover effect?
We're going to need him and everyone in that room. It's not fair to put it just on him, but the fact that he's able to keep the line moving, give you quality at bat, and with him right now hitting the bottom of the order, the more we can turn that lineup over, we're going to have chances to score runs. But, yeah, like I said, we're going to need him and everyone in there.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast, Extra Innings edition. I am one of your hosts, Samantha Croston, and we are here with Ernest Dove. You may know him through a number of channels. He is all over Twitter. If I'm not mistaken, Steve Cohen actually gave you a shout out once, which was pretty awesome, and he covers all things minor leagues. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Obviously, this is the day for people like me. Every time a top prospect comes up that I've been hugging for years. So obviously, I'm super excited about the newest edition of the promotions and big debut guys.
A.J. Ewing. We didn't spend a lot of time here in Syracuse with him. I'll tell you that much. He spent 12 games at the AAA level, and I'm sure a lot of time with Ernest and folks who are covering the minor leagues as well. I just want to know, for fans who might not be familiar exactly with, the way he went through the pipeline, and you mentioned before we got on this call, you've known him since day one. What has Ewing's pace looked like here and his track through the minor league levels?
Well, I've been talking about it a little bit, and I even interviewed him in spring, and it was kind of interesting. I'll get into that as well. But he's a young guy, obviously a high school draft pick. And he started off a little hot, then he started off slow. He had a really poor slash line in 2024. But when he was in the Florida Complex League, got hot briefly. I was asking staff behind the scenes, and some of the stuff they said about teenage A.J. Ewing, he had a certain plate discipline that they felt was a little extra mature for his age. So, baseball maturity overall, learning things like spin rate, plate discipline, understanding pitches and as it's coming to you. He was already had a really good kind of understanding of it. So he was starting off really well, even as a teenager. And obviously he started to blossom. But one of the cool things about A.J. Ewing, he told me in an interview, I'm like, hey, man, how are you doing this amazing? He actually credited his failure of his 2024 season in the minor leagues as what catapulted him into last year. I don't know who really says that too often, but he said that failure, that, not hitting well throughout a year, it really changed his mindset, motivation. And he's also a young man. I even saw it in some of the press conferences. It's what he told me in spring. A lot of this game is mental, and he sees it as mental, even more unbalanced, balanced with his talent and tools. He sees it as a mind game, and he's ready for it.
Ewing is the Mets' second-ranked prospect, their top position player, now that Carson Bench, of course, is up with the Mets. I thought something that was interesting that I read in an MLB.com article was that I saw it said some scouts who watched Ewing play in spring training believed him to be a superior offensive player than Bench. Do you think there's any truth to that, or that that's possible?
I mean, it's one of those things, and you don't want to do recency bias or even my own kind of bias of sorts. Bench has a different type of swing. Maybe some of the stuff that's being, said, and even analytics, he has a more of a different type of plate approach and compact swing. Maybe Bench has a bit of a longer swing. He can go real power, even opposite field. When he pulls and connects, it's going to get extremely hard. A.J. Ewing's a different form, more of a hit tool. I'm not comparing, but maybe it'd be more of a McNeil situation, spraying the ball like a Jeff McNeil of sorts with a lot more speed than Jeff McNeil. So, but then, yeah, when you get into things like higher ceiling, hey, a guy with a higher bit of a hit rate, maybe a little bit more plate discipline, which Bench has good plate discipline overall as a minor leaguer up the levels. I could see it. I wouldn't really argue against it, even with the recency thing, going with the hottest new thing. But A.J. Ewing with that hit tool and that other version of like extra contact and the extra plate discipline understanding, you could possibly give the edge of sorts. But I don't want to just tell fans, hey, Bench off to a slow start. This guy's going to dominate day one because he's better. You can't really say that, but I can see the ceiling. They can go head for head to see which one could be better long term. Although I do love A.J. Ewing more in center field because of the speed, and Bench has possibly a stronger arm anyway. So that would be a good right fielder as far as future years to come.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought up his speed, because I will encourage any Mets fan, or really any baseball fan to look up A.J. Ewing's highlights, because it's just a treat to watch. It's just fun to watch him on the base path. And I'm curious, how much of a role you think that his speed played as far as him getting the call up. Because I have to say, as far as athleticism goes, I think there's certainly a lot to be excited about there.
Yeah, I mean, among other things, too, in spring, as camps were breaking, everybody was wondering, where's everyone going to go? I honestly thought and projected A.J. Ewing to jump to AAA out of camp. I was kind of surprised that they lowered it to AA. I found that kind of interesting. So maybe even this jump and leap altogether is not going to be that huge. But overall, I think he's ready. And as far as, with the things with Bench, we wanted to see maybe a little bit more power, a lot of the opposite field stuff. With A.J. Ewing, again, not comparing at all whatsoever, but what if we get a better hitting version of a Luis Angel Acuna? What if we get a more contact-oriented Luis Robert Jr. with a healthy center fielder with even more speed, same range as a healthy Robert? Maybe that's also what you're getting, besides just, he's hitting 400 in AA and 350 in AAA. He's going to hit for 300 in the major leagues. We don't know, but I think right off the bat, day one, see if he gets on base. Bat on ball. If he hits a ground ball with a runner on base, they're not going to double him up. So now you're going to have a guy on first with one out. He may end up at third very quickly, or he'll go first to home. It's a different tool they can utilize, even if he's technically even not getting hits right off the bat.
I heard a stat that I'm sure you probably heard, but I found was interesting just this week, which is that out of all the Major League Baseball teams, the New York Mets are the only one that's on pace for 100 losses this season. Listen, Mets fans are having a rough go at it this year. Not what anybody expected, anticipated, or wanted for the Mets to start this season. Do you think that in calling up A.J. Ewing, that was a desperation move, or you think that this was a move that makes sense for the Mets based on where they're at?
I mean, obviously, you can kind of see it as a certain way, and the word desperation as well. I don't really see it as a white flag, of course, because, again, with a guy with this much talent, if nothing else, he's going to give you speed, pinch running, elite outfield defense, and put bat on ball. So I don't see it as just waving it around. But yeah, it's kind of interesting after only 12 games. I mean, he was dominating out of spring, and you didn't even send him to AAA. So for you to leave him down in AA, you must have had a different game plan. And then all of a sudden, obviously, he earned his spot. But 12 games in is pretty interesting, because you're not technically giving him a chance to naturally slump or go through 4 games going 1 for 10 to even see what happens. But again, with his mentality, explaining his own 2024 season. I think he would have handled a mini slump well anyway. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to do it this quick and this early. We're not doing like trade deadline-ish, obviously after August 1st. To do it in May seems interesting as the injuries are piling up. But you have a 40-man guy like Nick Morabito. I don't know why he's not already up already. So why would you choose a non-40 guy to jump him all the way up rather than a 40-man guy? That could be not even about desperation then. Maybe there's more of a reasoning because you could have just went with Pache, call up other guys, and DFA a bunch of arms. To call him up now, it could be considered desperation, but with the other options out there, I really think, no pressure, please, he's up here for a reason to try to help with his legs and his defense, if anything, to please energize this organization.
Like you mentioned, things could go great, things could go wrong. We're going to have to see how quickly Ewing is able to adjust. But for Mets fans, for fans like my parents who are going to the game tonight, if things go well and we see Ewing's ceiling, what can Mets fans expect and why should they ultimately be excited?
I mean, obviously, again, don't overhype it. I'm not looking into the next Bryce Harper here and other type of top outfielders. I think, again, the ceiling is going to be an everyday core player. Does that mean David Wright and Reyes? I don't know if they could emulate that with him and Benj one day. I think we're looking at an everyday player, bat on ball guy. He's going to hit for average. I believe and respect his plate discipline as a young player. I think it'll translate to major leagues. A somewhat OBP guy. He can steal even 40, 50 plus bases a year as a random number to throw out as a conservative. So he can steal 40, 50 bases. Home run wise, I could throw out random numbers, maybe think 10 to 15, unless he did bulk up this past off season. He's not a huge 6'5" monster. So he did bulk up. That's part of the reasoning for some of the stuff he changed and tweaked in his approach in the offseason strengthening program in January, I heard about. So he's made certain adjustments to grow. That could lead to more home runs and other doubles down the line. But again, we're looking at an everyday core player. You would think ceiling for the next 6 years of team control when the clock starts, he could be 6 years of a starting everyday player. And leadoff would make the most sense as far as future planning.
Last question while I have you here. Obviously, they're trying a lot of different things because I don't think it's more complicated than things aren't going well right now for the Mets. Do you think that we should be having the conversation or returning to the conversation of whether or not to keep Mendoza, or do you feel like that wouldn't necessarily make a huge difference one way or another?
I use the term scapegoat for stuff like that, even if he deserves the blame, somewhat deserves the blame. I honestly think, and even with the press conferences, you're going to get the political answers respectfully all the time. I personally wouldn't see any move like this happening during the regular season, whether it's front office or also the manager, unless they want to have other guys and maybe get rid of the hitting coaches or something. I mean, they can come up with something, but from top to bottom, this is an organizational philosophy, organizational communication. From MLB to the DSL, Dominican Summer League, the coaching staffs from bottom to the major leagues, it's a specific formula that's been set by the organization. So if they want to go with it, they feel like they have their guys to be around the clubhouse, locker room, vibes. I think they have what they have and want for the rest of the season. I think it's a discussion to have more in the offseason. I just don't see a thing to fire somebody now to light a fire and get a 15-game winning streak going. I don't think any of that is in the cards at this point.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for your time. Tell people where they can find you.
I'm always on X, on Twitter, at Ernest Dove. And if you even search my name, Ernest Dove, on YouTube, it's the New York Mets Dove Report. At this point, I'm pretty much making content every single day. Some of them are video shorts. Some of them are daily or weekly minor league recaps. As we speak this week, I'm trying to schedule my next group of multiple player interviews. So I'm planning to continue to interview top prospects in the Mets organization, and that's across the board. I have media credentials for the St. Lucie Mets, but I also have connections throughout the farm system. So I could be interviewing any prospect, any level, anytime. If you guys give me a shout out, subscription, and follow, I'll get you guys more information, and you get to learn about some of the top prospects all across the board in the Mets farm system.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time as always.